Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth interview of Motivation Week here at OC University. Those of you who are new, OC University is basically this improvement focused OC hub where part of our goal is to sort of bridge that gap between top players and the general community. So, in keeping with that theme, something we do here are these series of interviews where we dedicate 1 week to a specific topic. We have a bunch of different guests lined up to do interviews for that topic, and this week we are interviewing many people, 5 people, on the topic of motivation. Joining me today is none other than Mismagius. Hello, hello.
Hello.
So, just
Yeah.
as a brief introduction for those who aren't super familiar with you, could you just give, an introduction to who you are in the community and what people probably recognize you as?
Hello, I'm Mismagius, also known as Blue Dragon previously, also known as Nogard and BD and whatever else you might know, like from maps and stuff. Um, I've been playing EOS for like 13 years, I think. Yeah, 13 and a bit. I'm pretty much most famous for mapping Big Black, from mapping Airman, which is a collab with Ztrot, but still, people know me from that. From more recently, maps like Two Assisted Speedcore and Bookmaker. And well, I am kind of a mapper plus player. I have done a lot in the OC community. I have been part of the staff at some points. I have been chat moderator. I have been mapper, player. I do post things on Twitter very often. I do. I have a very active participation on Twitter without like saying I do memes, but yeah,
Yeah,
I do often interact with the community in pretty much every possible way.
yeah.
So
It
yeah.
it seems like you've pretty much done everything. I feel like, and you joined this game in 2008. Is that right?
Yeah, it was July 2008, which is there's already like a piece of trivia about that. I joined 3 hours, I think, after Doomsday in the same day of the same year.
Oh
So we
wow.
joined like yeah, 3 hours apart from each other.
Dang, and you're both still kicking, still
Yeah,
around.
yeah,
So
it's quite insane because we are I think like at this point like one of the three or four like still active players from 2008, and we joined like the same day.
yeah, that's crazy. So I want to ask about, all the way back then, sort of how you first found this game and what I guess motivated you to keep playing it back then.
So in 2008, like I mean, most people who found out about us back then were either like rhythm game enthusiasts, or in my case, like Elite Beat Agents players, or like Os Tatakai Wendan, which is the Japanese version. Um, I did. I didn't even have like money for a Nintendo DS back then. I just played on an emulator, and it was like really laggy. My PC was really bad, and I played like with my mouse, so it was kind of OS before OS for me. And I did like acquire a lot of interest in the game. I would just constantly spend time looking for content, looking for cool plays on YouTube, and one day I just found this weird video that was like Osu, and it was like I think it was the Super Mario Brothers video from Pepe from
Oh,
July, yeah, from June or July 2008, which showcased like the first one of the first storyboards, and I found that like, wow, this is amazing. How does this exist? Is it like a paid game? Is this like some kind of video editing thing? Because I've never heard of this, and I have no idea how this exists.
oh, I see.
And yeah, I tried to download the game, and I was really lost because uh, I mean the first impression I had with OS, it was really weird because it was a very strange like website address like osu.ppy.sh. I just thought it was a virus
Oh,
because it was this weird thing on YouTube that just seemed too good to be real, and the address was really weird. And then I clicked on the website, and it was like those early 2000s website design, and I was like, where am I going with this?
oh my
But
gosh.
but yeah, I downloaded the game and I really enjoyed it. I would constantly play it like between I would play Elite Beat Agents on the emulator, and I would also play Osu. So I would kind of alternate between the two. And eventually, at the end of 2008, I did get a Nintendo DS, and I played like a lot with the touchscreen. And I
Oh,
never really had a touchscreen on my PC, so I never played those with the touchscreen. But it did like motivate me more to play.
I see.
And yeah, I mean, this is kind of already going a bit too far with my answer, but
No, no,
what
this is
really
good.
brought me, yeah, what really brought me into playing actively was on January 2009, where I started playing mostly multiplayer matches. And like there were very few multi lobbies around. The community was really small back then. So like it was always like 3 or 4 rooms or something. And everyone kind of knew each other when playing multiplayer because it was always like the same members of the community. And something that was really interesting is that a lot of top players played multi, like just for fun back then. So right now we have like this situation where pretty much everyone plays solo, and people who play multi are either like people who are new to the game or people who are playing tournaments. But back then, like a lot of top players, like even top 10, even like top 1 players, would play multiplayer a lot just for fun, just to play with other people. And that's
Oh,
something that's kind of it's very different from nowadays.
yeah.
But about that, like my earliest memories, like of interacting with the OSU community, were in January and February 2009, where I would play in these multi rooms, and they would constantly have players like I remember. I mean, I do remember a lot of players from back then, which people aren't going to recognize, but from like the players who are still known nowadays, but like White Wolf, which is now Werewolf Wolf, Doomsday. I had a lot of multi matches with Doomsday. Jericho to like 2002. I don't even remember like the numbers on his username, but like these people, a lot of top 100 players and people who are also very known mappers like Gladdy. Pretty much everyone played multi at some point, and that
Oh,
was really fun because I could just interact with people all around the world. And a lot of times, I mean, before that, I've never really interacted with people from outside Brazil or Portugal because I couldn't even like speak English properly. I was like 10 or 11 years old at that point. I couldn't really speak English very well. But that was pretty much what brought me into actually learning English because I never did any English course or anything. I just kind of learned it from playing OS and from talking to people there. And
yeah.
that also motivated me to play back then because it was like my way to evolve in like several parts of my life.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I think OSU is really cool that you can sort of interact with people from all over the world. So definitely agreed there. So actually, okay, I have a couple questions. So the first one, just to get it out of the way, is so you signed up for your account with the username Blue Dragon. So is there a story behind that name?
Kinda. I mean, I actually just put that on my user page a few days ago, explaining the story because people ask me that from time to time. Blue Dragon, a lot of people assume it's from either the anime or the game, which is also named that. But I think my username actually predates the anime and the game. I'm not even sure about that, but I didn't even know about them at the time. It is actually from a PlayStation 1 game called Monster Rancher 2, which like it's kind of disrespectful to say that way, but it's pretty much bootleg Pokemon at some points
Oh,
where you just like you train a monster, it battles, and you have a life with with your monster, and it's kind of like that. It's a very similar concept.
I see.
But yeah, about that game, it has like a lot of different monsters. I think it had like 400 or 500, and one of them was a dragon, a very generic dragon, and it had a subtype, which is like a mashup with another monster called Hound Dragon. which was kind of a dog dragon, and it was blue and it was fluffy, and it was like 9 years old. And I found that like the best monster because it was really cool. It was a dragon and it was a dog and it was really awesome and I loved it. And it was like my um, I would say a lot of people have like when they're kids they have like spiritual connections with a video game or anime characters or whatever else,
Right.
and that was mine. So I was kind of obsessed with this monster. So I one of the first things I did was to start using the online username Blue Dragon, which wasn't very original. I couldn't even like speak English properly, so in some websites where I couldn't even use Blue Dragon because it was already in use, I used Hound Blue Dragon, which isn't exactly. I don't think it was even grammatically correct, but still, I used Hound Blue Dragon. I think it is still like my YouTube address, my
Oh,
YouTube
right.
account address, and it was my second username for a long time.
I see. I think it was your
And
AskFM also.
yeah, it was. I used it for a lot of stuff because well, Blue Dragon isn't exactly an original username, so
Right.
I was actually surprised that I even got it, so for some reason. But there weren't many people back then, so yeah.
Right. So I also want to ask. So it seems like you actually spent a lot of time playing Osu, both with the Elite Beat agents and then the actual Osu, right? And at what point did you decide to start mapping, basically? Like, what was your initial inspiration to start mapping, and then obviously what kept you mapping sometimes more than actually playing the game?
So my mapping, like I mean, I'm gonna go off topic a lot, but
That's
my
okay.
mapping story, my mapping story is pretty funny at the beginning because one of the first things I did after downloading the game, I just saw that there was an edit mode, and I was like, holy! I just have to do this. I just have to make my own bitmaps. And like the first two or three songs that I pushed like into OS was I didn't even submit them because I didn't even know you could submit them. I think it was like songs by the band Rush, which is a progressive rock band from the like songs from the 70s, from the 80s, which are like 6, 7 minutes long. They aren't exactly mappable.
Oh
And
my
back then
god.
I was 10 years old, so it wasn't exactly like the best mapping of my life, I would say. It was just randomly placing notes on the screen. And then like I did a few more maps like with mostly and I couldn't even time. Like the timing for me it was like this weird tab, like I think it didn't even matter to me. I just put like some random BPM and then I would just like place I would just like set like 1/8, which was the maximum on the editor at the time, and I would like live map. So I would let the song play and just place randomly notes on the screen, and I played these maps over and over, and I thought to myself like, oh my god, this is so fun.
Oh my
I
god.
love mapping.
That's
I didn't
awesome.
even think on these exact words, but still. So yeah, I did spend a few months in 2008, like late 2008, doing this thing. And on January 2009, I found out that you could submit maps. So my first submitted map was November Rain by Guns N' Roses, which is like a 9-minute piano song with some rock elements. And for those who know the song, like it's not exactly a mappable song in many meanings, but back then everyone mapped everything, so that was not exactly an issue. But like the timing was like 60 BPM. I just put 60 BPM and some random offset because I didn't even know what that meant at the time. And well, I my that map I still have it actually. I It's not submitted anymore, but I still have it, and it's like one of the worst maps of all time by far.
Oh
I'm not
my god.
even saying it like as a funny joke. It's like a lot of beginners nowadays they have some sense of mapping, like they have some sense of rhythm from the maps they play. But I didn't have any of that back then. It was 2008, and I was 10 years old, so it was just randomly placed notes. It had no sense of rhythm. It had no sense of anything. It had like 2B sliders because I live mapped, and that caused some glitches. So like there were 0 ms sliders.
Oh my god.
There were like sliders that went very far out off screen. I have no idea how I even did that. And well, so the first thing I did, which is very interesting about that, was I went to the hashtag also chatting game, which at the time actually had like most of the prominent members of the community in there. It had a lot of moderators. Pepe used to talk there frequently. Pretty much everyone talks there because it was the only chat after all. But yeah, I sent that map there, and I told people like, hey, I'm new. This is my first map. You guys should like check it. And then like I think it was, I don't remember who else, but the first person who checked it was Cheese Warlock, who was a bat at the time, which is like current BN, like as a comparison. And well, he let's just say that I still, to this day, hold the fastest world record for a nuked bitmap. For those who don't know, like nuking a bitmap means that the map is so bad that it just cannot get ranked. It should not get ranked, and it was like an icon that was put into the map thread, like saying, "Don't touch this map. This map is bad." And like I got that icon like 10 minutes after submission. I think it is still like the world record for that.
Oh my gosh.
And like his comment on the thread was like, "Yeah, this has no sense of mapping. I'm sorry, but this is terrible in pretty much every sense.
Oh no.
You should like try another song, like something simpler. Like don't give up. Like you can do it, but yeah, good luck on this." And like it was just, oh, okay, then I guess, well, I'm not really good at this. And then like 6 months after, 2008 was a very interesting time for who was around in the internet back then because it was the age of memes. So like there were those weird memes like awesome face, caramel dancing, which is still like kind of popular, but like epic win, epic fail, owned, and
Yeah.
like these weird websites like can I has cheeseburgers and stuff like that. Like the first like very popular internet memes. And my second map was on one of these. It was like that website that had like 17 or 18 las in it. Like it was la 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 la.com or something like that. And it was like a 5 second loop of just some song. Like I think it is actually, I found out this year that it is actually a Smile Decay song. Like the same people
Oh,
who sang Butterfly.
wow.
But yeah, it was just a loop, a 5 second loop that went for 30 seconds. And that was my second map.
Do you still
And
have
that
it?
map actually, yeah, I still have it. It's actually I resubmitted it. It's
Oh.
actually on currently submitted. So it is like a 30-second map, but that map actually had some sense of spacing. It had some sense of timing. The timing was actually wrong because the song looped every 5 seconds and it wasn't a correct loop. So I didn't know how to add multiple timing sections, so that was kind of confusing for me. But the map was really bad, but it had some sense of like mapping. It had some sense of rhythm. It wasn't rankable even by 2008, 2009, I think standards. It was like middle of 2009, I think, that I submitted that,
Oh.
and uh, it was like passable at best. It was just a hard diff actually. It wasn't anything crazy. And I got my friend GBL, which was another Brazilian member of the community back then, and we talked a lot. And he'd made an incentive for that, so that was kind of neat. Like we could just we talked about like let's rank a map. Let's get a ranked map. Like we would kind of we placed a kind of bet like that didn't wasn't really worth anything on which one of us could rank their map first.
Oh, that's
And
cool actually.
yeah, and mine was that La 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 song, and his map was Kelly Clarkson's My Life Would Suck Without You. About that, there's more about that later, but
Okay.
yeah, there's a bet about that. So I tried to rank my map. It was kind of bad. Like I didn't have any artist on it. There wasn't any metadata thing like metadata, whatever, but there wasn't any kind of rule about that back then. But I didn't even have an artist. Like the map name was just la 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 la. I didn't have an artist. So yeah, about that. Uh, it was kind of bad, but it was still okay. So after that, I made my third map, which is Uka Uka Ice Creature Fight, which is a song from Crash Bandicoot, like to Insanity from PlayStation 2. And it was just like a random song I had on my computer at the time. And I just tried, well, let's try this one. And I mapped it, and it was kind of okay, actually. I thought it was pretty much okay. And around that time, I found out about the another in-game chat called Mod. Actually, it was Mod Help back then. It was hashtag Mod. There was hashtag Osu and hashtag Mod. And in hashtag Mod, you could like ask people for feedback on your maps. And a lot of these people were actually bats, people who could rank maps. A lot of these people were just very big members of the mapping community.
Oh.
So you could actually get useful feedback. So when I posted my map, and I thought it was actually kind of good, the first person who checked it was Blissful Yoshi, who is a kind of known,
Oh,
well,
yes.
like well-known old mapper, and he did help me with a lot of stuff, like on basics of spacing and timing and stuff like that. And that was really nice because after that, my map was pretty much playable. It was pretty good, so it motivated me to try and ask other people. And after like I think 5 months, I think it wasn't. I think I submitted it in June 2009, if I'm not mistaken, and it actually got ranked in October 2009. So that was really insane for me. I was like so happy. That was I remember like screenshotting the bat who was modding my map at the time. Like I couldn't even believe that someone else was like whose job was to check for good quality maps. They were looking at my map. That was
Oh.
so insane to me. And that person was Jar Jar Jacob, which was also known as Jarby, who was also like a very known mapper back then.
Right.
And he ranked my map, and well, I won my bet against GBL.
Oh,
So
nice.
that was pretty interesting. About that bet, which I said I would talk again about later, GBL's map, it would not get ranked at the time. It didn't get ranked in 2009. It didn't get ranked in 2010. And he kind of quit the game. And it didn't get ranked in 2011. It didn't get ranked in 2012, 2013. And like, okay, that's fine to me. That's all right. Like this guy is inactive at the game. I guess I won my bet. And in 2014, I was actually a bet at this time, so I could rank maps. And GBL kind of became active again at that time.
Oh.
And we were like, okay, we should rank this. We should actually try and rank this.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
we got and like nowadays we have like this kind of niche community that's like, and even like a few BNs who are like, yeah, let's get this old map ranked. Like this older mapper is active now, so we should rank his map. And like this kind of stuff is like common nowadays. But back then, like a map mapped in 2009 getting ranked in 2014, it was completely insane. It was like a map that was submitted 2 years after the game was published, like getting ranked. That was completely insane. It was and that was like pretty funny because it was a map that I had a difficulty on, and then we later found out that, well, I'm a bet, so I can't rank stuff that's my own difficulty. So
Oh.
so we just deleted my diff and we went through with it. But yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of topic. But after my first rank map, I started posting a lot, like interacting a lot in hashtag mods. I started talking a lot with members of the community, and this kind of kickstarted my career as a mapper. So in early 2010, I ranked 2 more maps, and then I would just uh, start ranking maps. Like actually, it was easy for me. Not easy, but it was a lot easier than my first rank map because in 2010 The standards were, I mean, they were less restrictive than nowadays, but they were kind of specific. Like there were some things that you couldn't do, and it was kind of, it wasn't very like freedom based like nowadays. So you just had to kind of follow this kind of model, this basic model of bitmapping, and I could do that. So I did rank quite a lot of maps in 2010 and 2011, but the most interesting map for me, and now this is where things should get interesting for everyone. It was in 2000, like even in 2009. Okay, so coming back in time a bit again, in 2009, I was very interested by very hard maps. Like, also didn't have many of them at the time. Like, there was the You and No One Was Her, the Ronald McDonald map,
Oh yes.
and well, about that map, the map. Okay, so dog started barking. That's nice. Uh, about that map, that mapper was very interesting. I think his name is pronounced Rakin. I don't know. I would say Rakin, but he was kind of known for mapping hard maps. That was something really cool for me. Like, wow, this guy is like the guy who makes the challenges for the cool players. Like, this guy is so cool, and he made like maps like that. UNO and was her. He made Emerald Sword. He made Neomax, which yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know
Uh,
that.
he made like a lot of well-known. I think I'm just gonna search for him, but yeah, he had a lot of hard maps at the time, and in his graveyard he had what he called Rakin's Ultimate Challenges, which were okay. So that's a very nice dog. Um, so he had this series that were like impossible beat maps. These were like for the top of the top players, only the best can play them, and I played them a lot, and I just like deranked them with like 20% hack. So I found that so cool. Like these maps were like the pinnacle of mapping for me. And I got really inspired by these maps. So when I started mapping, one of my first maps was a Nico Nico Doga video, like a mad video. And it was like kind of silly, but still. And the map was supposed to be impossible. It was actually, I wouldn't say it was well mapped, but it had some structure. It had like some sense of spacing. This was after my first ranked map, so it was like bad, but kind of alright bad. And one of the first comments on the map thread was from Lesja, which, well, everyone knows Lesja. Lesja is like one of the most influential mappers of all time, and he was pretty much the best player back then. Like in
Oh,
skill, he was never high ranked, like top one, but he was the best player back then. And his comment was like, "This map is stupid. This map is completely stupid. It's not hard, just hard. It's stupid." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess he hates me.
oh no.
I guess this is fine. I think I'm going to touch this again." So I got kind of demotivated on mapping hard stuff for a while. And eventually, I did try mapping something hard again. On, I think it was July 2010, a community member. Okay, my voice is dying. Let me just
Uh-oh.
drink something.
Okay, all good. Yes, I'm very intrigued by this
Yeah,
story.
I mean, I had COVID like 3 weeks ago, so I'm still recovering.
Oh, all good.
Yeah. So in 2010, like June or July 2010, a mapper and community member called CDFA, which, yeah, some people know him. He posted on hashtag mod chat a link to a video like, someone should map this. This is some cool furry music. And I was like, what the hell is that? Like, what is this? And I clicked that, and it was, I think it was Intensive Carry Unit by Renard. And I found like, oh my god, this is actually so cool. This is such a cool song. This is so mappable. This is so interesting. And then one of the related videos was something that was just released, like, I don't know, like a few months before. And it was a song called Band Forever. And well, that's where things begin.
Oh,
I saw that, I heard that song, I thought it was so nice. It was so awesome. And I thought to myself, like, well, this can make a hard map. And I started mapping it, and it was a very bad map. I'm not gonna lie, like the first version of that map was really weird. It was so fucking awkward. But yeah, it was the R7 as well, so it was very confusing. It was very hard to play. But well, I did it. I actually made a hard map again. So yeah, let's go. And one of the first comments of the thread was again from Lazio, but this time it was different. He was like, "Wow, this is cool. Like this map is hard. This map is interesting." And the second thing he said, "Can I make a difficulty?" And then I just melted. I was just like, "Oh my god, this is a dream."
Oh my gosh.
Lazio himself is going to make a diff on my map. This is like insane. And well, he made the diff, and then we tried to approve it because, well, there was approval back then. It was different from ranking. The map was too hard to get ranked, and it also kind of it was over the score limit. So yeah, we eventually got the map approved, and it was kind of very different from my other ranked maps because my other ranked maps were like nowadays they're like 2 or 3 stars pretty much. And like some players played it, but it was like, okay, like this map exists. And Ben Forever had a very different reception because pretty much the first day of it being ranked, approved actually, there was actually like a snipe competition on it between two players called Cookiesy, which was just like some Korean dude who was getting pretty good at the time, I guess, and Doomsday, who was rank 1 at the time, and who was considered the best player for some people. And then this knife war went on, and they started like getting closer to FCing the map. And then both of them, I think, FC'd the map, and it was like it actually got more people into playing the map, and then more people played it, and then more people played it.
Wow.
And then the map actually got very popular. It got like into the front page at some point, like the front page of the forums used to have like 3 showcase maps, which were like highest rated maps from the in-game rating system. And Band Forever was there, and it was like, oh my god, this is actually getting big. So I kind of went on to make more Renard maps because it actually worked. Like this thing is actually working. And well, we are talking about motivation. So this was my first big motivation as a mapper. And having players actually play your map and care about your map, not just play it because it gave ranked score or because, well, it was some cool song, I guess. Actually, having players play your map because it was an interesting map, that kind of got me like, okay, I can do more of this. And then I started making more Renard maps. Like, I don't even remember the exact order, but I think the next was the TU4AR, like I just say take you for a ride map,
Oh,
which
right.
was I guess there for Pomuta, I think. Or no, it was actually Mercurius. Pomuta's map set was after. So yeah, that one also got very popular back then. I think it was late 2011. It got ranked, and like these maps were actually getting popular. Like I was getting known as this guy who made hard maps. Like before, I was the guy who made Big Black. I was the guy who made Band Forever, and that was pretty interesting for me because I was still like 11 or 12 years old. I didn't understand well the concept of being famous or being relevant or something. So even though like I was getting popular, I didn't know how to deal with that. So that kind of got me in a weird spot, and my maps had like this varying quality. I didn't even know what I was doing properly, but some of them got very popular, and that's kind of what mattered in the end. So in 2000, well, I mean, after that, the story is pretty much well known. I mapped Big Black. Big Black got very popular, and after that, I got very much known as the guy who made hard maps, and that kind of cemented my reputation on the community as the guy who made hard maps. So about that. So since we're talking about motivation, still on the same question, I believe, but
No,
As a
this is
mapper,
good. This
yeah,
is good.
yeah. As a mapper, this kind of thing actually got me very in a weird spot in especially in 2013 because I kind of it kind of got annoying to map at some points. Like, okay, I mapped the big black. Okay, I mapped this. Okay, I mapped that. But I also mapped other stuff. I also mapped like Amazing Horse or like Tenacious D Classical or like Lucy by Skillet. And I found these easier maps. Like I thought to myself like, okay, these maps are actually good. Like when I make a hard map, I'm just making a map to be hard. I'm not making it to be good. And then like people just cared about my hard maps, and that was my first like demotivating moment in OSU, especially as a mapper, because I would like I was 13 or 14. So whenever someone was like, "Hey, I love your map, the Big Black," I would actually get mad at them. I wouldn't be happy at them. I would actually get like, "Yeah, okay, whatever, but you should play my other maps because yeah, Big Black is a bad map, so yeah, you should care about actually good maps instead." And it was like very much of like I was very rude and I didn't act exactly well. And the more I got these questions and these like interactions, the worse I felt about it. So between like I think like mid 2012 and the end of 2013, it was a period where I mapped actually like only easy maps, only like maps where their top diff was like hard or at most insane. And funnily enough, these were like my best maps at the time. Like I wanted to prove to other people that I could make good maps that weren't hard, like good for being hard. And these maps never really got popular at all, but some of them got some nice reception from the community. The biggest one I would say was Lab Fox Forever, which was like it was like a mix of this kind of good and hard kind of map. And that one was it got popular, not as popular as Big Black, of course, but it got popular between like a huge range of players, like people who are new to the game and people who are good at the game were both enjoying the map, and that was something I found really cool. So at the end of 2013, I think I made a map called Worldwide Choppers, and people were already getting like around it and were like, "Oh wow, this is cool. This is another hard map. This is cool." One of the first people to comment on it was Hanser actually before he got famous, and well, that was kind of cool for me. But at the time, I had like some complicated relationship. I had like it was some very weird moments in my life. I was a teenager and I didn't really know what I was doing. So I promptly deleted the map like as soon as possible because I didn't want it like to get popular. So yeah, after a while I was just like back to just mapping easy stuff. And that was kind of demotivating. It was kind of sad because like I spent pretty much the whole of 2012, 2013, 2014. It was just like that. And then 2015 hit. And they were like, okay, I feel like I have improved enough as a mapper. I feel like things have changed enough. So I'm going to actually just get back into doing things I like. So I resubmitted Worldwide Choppers. I ranked it, and people liked it. And I started moving into other kinds of maps. Like I think that was around the time I mapped. Okay, so dogs again. I mapped Pensamento Típico de Esquerda Caviar, which is like that map has some very interesting stories. Um, because I mapped this as a joke. It was a complete joke. It was like some bad map. It wasn't exactly a bad map, but it was just like here's this funny song, I guess. And then people started commenting on it. Like it was a graveyard. It was pending, I think. And people started commenting on it, and more people started commenting on it. And then like something that never happened to me, like in at least in like a lot of years, um, people who were relevant in the mapping community at the time and bats. They were like, I can rank this map for you. Like, you should actually make an episode for this, and you should rank this because this song has potential. This song is interesting. And I was like, wait, but this is just like some edgy song, like it's some meme song. But okay, I guess I can rank it. And well, the rest is history. Like it got ranked, it already got very popular in the first few weeks. It got like into most played maps, and then Ruruchi played it with DT, and then all of that happened, and then it exploded in popularity. And then I was no longer the big black mapper. I was just like this guy who makes different kinds of maps. And then that kind of, at the same time, it did motivate me, but I was very worried about where to go next because I kind of created an ego over Pensamento Típico because I just thought, well, this is a good map. This is like the new meta of mapping. This is like the something great. And I thought I was doing something great at the time. And then I started making maps that I thought were great. Like I thought they were amazing. But like it was already 2015 and mapping evolved a lot over the years, like with Skystar, with Hanser. And I didn't care about any of these maps because I just thought they were overdone and they were like straying away from what Osu should be. And I just stuck to making like these maps which were supposed to be classics. So around that time, I made Piranha, I made Get Jinxed, which were both get diffs for Tahaski, which was a Brazilian friend of mine. They both got ranked and they both got popular. But then I started to notice something that was very worrying, which was players liked the map, but mappers hated the map. Get Jinxed, especially. Tahaski had a really bad time trying to rank the map because of my diff. Because pretty much every BN or BAT, or I don't even remember what it was at the time, but pretty much every mapper who looked at the map, he said, okay, this is good. But BD's diff, yeah, that's kind of like stuff from 2010, don't you think? Like, I don't think I can rank this. And then it started like creating some kind of stigma. Like my maps were just not up to the standards of like Skystar and Hanser. And that was like the worst period for me because 2015, 2016, I would still make maps, but they were either easy and well, they were okay, but nothing special, or they were hard and the mappers just found that like they were really bad. And this really like I think it was even reflected on my graph at the time, like as we talked previously. Um, I got kind of inactive, so at the time because I just felt like I didn't belong to the mapping community. I didn't really belong to the player community, and this was like my lowest point of motivation, So even though like I couldn't bring myself to quit the game, so like a lot of players nowadays have this issue where they just can't bring themselves to quit the game. That was what I had at the time. It was like a really rough moment because I wanted to quit, I didn't know how. So I broke a lot of rules, I made multi accounts, I did a lot of bad stuff, and it kind of didn't really change much. I still wanted to play the game, I still wanted to map, and I felt like that was something bad. So that kind of like I started thinking at some point like what is wrong with what I'm doing? Like what am I doing that just makes me feel so bad about this game? Because I just felt terrible about Toast back then. And in 2016, 2000, I think it was 2017, I started going around and I started trying to make modern maps. And these quote modern maps, they weren't exactly modern. They were just like very weird attempts at replicating what was a modern map. And I asked other mappers for feedback, people who were nice enough to me to like say, okay, this is bad because of X, Y, Z. And these people, like, they just made a huge difference for me. One of them was Captain 01. who just told me like pretty much everything that I could improve on my map. And this kind of started like a new era for me. Like, okay, I think I can actually start making interesting maps now. And I started improving and submitting more and more maps. Like 2018 was the year where I submitted, I think, and ranked the most maps in my 13 years of OSU. And like I was interacting with the community again. I was making maps that other mappers felt good enough to rank and to enjoy. And hello, Doggo. But and 2018 was a very cool moment for me as a mapper because it just felt like, okay, I'm actually improving again as a mapper. And 2017 as well, at the end of 2017 and start of 2018, I also at the same time was improving a lot as a player. I started doing some very cool scores at the time that I felt like I couldn't do ever before. And these scores like motivated me to go on as a player, and the maps motivated to go on as a mapper. So 2018 was very good for me, but at the same time, new problems started emerging. In 2018, like around the middle and ending of 2018, I started getting inspired maybe by the wrong inspirations. Like I wouldn't say wrong because they are very good mappers, but my biggest two inspirations were Fort and Kreutz, which were mappers that were not perceived too well. Like they were popular, but at the same time they didn't get a good perception from both the player and mapper community because they were just seen as mappers who didn't really care about the playing experience or the. So my style started getting inspired by that, and then I got like into some kind of very weird situation where I was trying to please mappers and I was trying to please players, and I just kind of couldn't do any of that. And well, after that, like 2019, 2020, okay, 2020, like this year pretty much, I just pretty much realized that ranking maps is silly. It's not really a goal for me anymore because if people are gonna enjoy my map, they don't need a leaderboard to do it. So that kind of relieved the stress for me, like at least to rank maps, to find like the approval of other maps. Like this map is good enough for me to rank. Like I used to complain, like if anyone follows me on Twitter or pretty much anywhere else, for many years I would just like constantly complain about how I couldn't rank my maps because the system wasn't fair and because how things were bad and how also was bad and how this is bad and everything was bad. And I just kind of eventually just stopped caring about that because uh, it's not exactly like just flip a switch and start mapping for yourself. It's not as easy as that, as some people say. But I did start like slowly at least trying to just like explore stuff that I enjoyed, mapping songs that I hadn't really tried before, trying to make different experiences and not necessarily doing something that's going to be popular or is going to be well accepted by the community. So that was where I feel I improved the most as a mapper, and that kind of got me into a very different kind of motivation to the one I had before. Because uh, for all the time until then, I just had external motivation. I was motivated based on like other people enjoying my work. And then after this situation happened, I was just like getting motivated by doing stuff, by actually finishing stuff and finishing projects that I feel like are going to be cool for me. And that kind of like at that point, I think it was some point in 2019 or 2020. That was where I achieved my current motivation setting, where I alternate between mapping and playing, like depending on how I feel about the game. Like if I feel like okay, like I'm not doing good scores, like I don't think I can play well. I don't think I can do stuff. So I just move into mapping and I start exploring mapping. And then after a while, I get tired of mapping because it feels like I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing progress. And then I just start playing for fun. And then I start doing good scores. And then I start like getting really inspired as a player, and then eventually it falls off, and the cycle just goes on and on and on. And I pretty much realized that's what's always been happening for years and years and years. And that's how I kind of managed to stay for such a long time in the game. So like we're still on the same question after like 50 minutes, but like by answering this, I feel like I answered pretty much every stage of my OSU career as like, okay, I went through this, I went through that, and now I know exactly what brings me enjoyment in this game and what brings me exhaustion from this game. So I have like this very interesting balance that I try to keep all the time. Of course, I'm gonna get frustrated at some stuff happening. Of course, I'm gonna cause some drama every once in a while. But at the same time, I feel like I've never really been as how can I say this? But like comparing to 2015, I felt bad about also being in my life. I felt bad about spending so much time in this game. And nowadays I just feel like I'm completely fine with OSU. I'm completely fine with the time I spend there. I'm completely fine with everything I did there and everything I do, because it's just like it's another part of my life. It's a huge part of my life, but it's just another part of my life where I try to enjoy it as much as possible. And that's where like stuff like please enjoy game comes in, because a lot of people just say like, yeah, just play different stuff, just enjoy the game. And this just isn't easy. But at the same time, I feel like enjoying the game is a very personal experience. Like it's not just something that you can force into others. Like you can't just say, "Oh, just play tech maps, just play gimmick maps, just play tournaments, just do this, just do that." That's not going to work with everyone, and that's actually not going to work with most people. Because at least for me, it was a very unique way that I found to enjoy Osu as a player, because I have my own playstyle that has its ups and downs. It has its very specific um, like advantages and very specific disadvantages. And as a mapper, I also have this very specific style that some people enjoy, some people don't. But at the same time, it is the way I found to enjoy the game. And that's kind of what matters to me, because everyone else like just minds their own business in the end. Like even though people complain, even though people argue, like no one is going to care more about me than myself. So if I know how to take care of myself in the not just in the game but like in real life, then I shouldn't be worrying about that. I shouldn't be worrying about the time I spent in OSU. Like I make maps I enjoy. I make plays that I can enjoy or not, but still, like when I farm a map, I'm not exactly proud of it sometimes. But there is like some enjoyment to this game that is very unique from person to person. And this is like I would like to advocate in this interview, because for the longest time I just thought there was like a formula for enjoying the game, for being motivated at the game. And well, now I know that it's not exactly like that. Like I tried many different methods. Some of them worked, some of them didn't, and some of them worked really well until they didn't. One of them, I think, like I posted on Twitter about making pools of specific maps and practicing on them. And I was like, okay, this is like the ultimate method to get motivated at FSU, and this is going to work for everyone. And like after 1 month, I just couldn't bring myself to play OSU again. So it didn't exactly work that well. But it is like this. I think the best way to describe this whole experience is like finding different things, finding never being like stuck to something specific, like never being stuck to playing like this kind of map or this mapping this kind of thing, because eventually you're just going to be tired. Eventually you're just going to be frustrated at not being able to do something. And this is where like having multiple skill sets as a player, or like multiple styles or multiple songs that you like, different kinds of songs that you map as a mapper. This is where it comes all in because it makes you try to appreciate different parts of the game, and it makes you not get tired of a certain part. Like if you're just tilted with playing farm maps, just play like stream maps, just play tech maps, just play this, just play that, just map, just do something else. And it's not just like as a way, like just do other stuff for head. It's going to work. Like just get motivated. No, what I mean by that is just like there's a certain level of exploration that a lot of people aren't willing to do because it feels like too much effort or it's not going to be worth it. And I feel like for me, it was very much worth it. It was what got me into, well, being here for 13 years. So yeah, that's my answer to your question. Like, I think it's been like, what, 2 minutes?
Yeah, that was
Okay, I'm
quite.
sorry for that.
No, that was quite a journey. I think a lot of people can take lessons from the different experiences that you've had with different people. And, like you said, I think Osu has so much to offer that if someone's not really feeling motivated in a certain part of the game, then they should definitely try dipping their toes in some of the other parts, like just different kinds of maps or mapping itself or anything like that. So I do have a couple questions sort of about the timeline and progression of your history. So
Mhm,
the first big one, I think, is that you changed your name in around 2016. So you
mhm.
mentioned that, 2015 was sort of that low turning point for you. And then I guess, do you have a sort of explanation or story behind why you decided to change your name?
Yeah, so about Mismagius, there were like two big reasons why I changed my username. Like they aren't exactly big reasons, but they are the most relevant. Which are, well, the first, I just like the Pokemon. I thought it was cool. It was like a very nice username. It fit like with the whole. Well, I like purple. I like this Pokemon. I like magic. I like stuff like that. So yeah, it works well. It's a good username. And the second part was like before I changed my username, I was already thinking like I should change my username, I should change my identity. Because at the time there was like this big thing about like, "Lol, Blue Dragon squares, Blue Dragon maps. He's like the hard map guy, he's like this, he's like that." And there was like this sort of reputation that I didn't really feel comfortable. It wasn't very like draining, but at the same time, I felt like, well, let's just change this. It's going to be interesting. Like, if I don't like it, I can just change it back. But it kind of stuck. I just really liked the username. I felt like I connected more into it. And also because Blue Dragon was a username I made when I was like 9 years old. So yeah, there's that too. I
Right.
felt like it was time for a change.
Yeah. And it seems actually, I think you changed it in 2017 from what I'm
Yeah, it
noticing.
was, I think, May 2017 in Osu. But before that, I think I changed it on Twitter and pretty much everywhere else. I think it was like very early 2017.
Oh, I see. So, yeah. So I guess that was a successful rebrand. I think a lot of people do know you more as Miss Macias now. So that is
Yeah, I
good.
mean, there's the joke, the whole like, I mean, the Blue Dragon Squares hard maps guy lol joke got replaced with like, wow, this Mismagius guy sucks. Blue Dragon is much better than him, which is like
Oh,
something I hear at least like twice every day for the past 3 years.
oh my God.
I mean, it's an okay joke, but when you hear it every day, it kind of gets stale. But still, I don't
Yeah.
blame people for doing it.
So another question I had was the introduction of the loved category in 2016. And I think some of your maps were actually some of the first maps to get added to that category as a sort of starter pack. And basically, I guess one, like, how did you feel about that? And then also moving into like 2019, 2020, when you were mostly just sort of mapping for fun and for the player's enjoyment rather than to get the maps ranked. Like, was the loved category sort of one main reason why you were okay with that? Like, if people really like the map, then it can just be loved, like that sort of thing.
Yeah, so about Loved, like I think one kind of funny story about Loved is that well, it was idealized as a category, but it was kind of just it just kind of appeared, and I think it had like one or two maps. It just kind of existed as a category, and I think Peppy and Ephemeral were like, okay, guys, community, what should we do about this? Like, what maps should we add? And I think there was like a thread on Reddit about it, and some guy, I don't remember who exactly, I'm sorry, but he just made a list of like 20 maps that weren't ranked at the time and that were considered relevant. And some of them were just like his personal picks, were just like some maps that weren't even popular at all. They just were like, okay, this map is cool, I guess. And it was just his opinion. And like, I mean, Big Money was one of them, and it was actually very popular. It was a very interesting map. And the other one, I think it was The Limit Does Not Exist. And
Right.
that map was a map I made as a gift to a friend, and it wasn't like popular at all. Like no one played that map actually. There were like three or four favorites of it, and one of the favorites were from that guy. So he just put it into that list, and Pepe just looked and well, I guess this guy knows a lot about popular ranked maps. I'm going to put this on loved section. And then like I woke up, I saw that the love section was created, and that I had two maps on it, and I was like, wait, what? I mean, Big Money, I understood because it was a huge meme. Big Money was like this. It was like the hard Blue Dragon map that was never ranked. So that was interesting. So yeah, I'm just checking my profile now. Both of them got ranked in 16 October 2016 at the same exact time. So yeah, they were both part of the this first wave of love maps.
Oh, I see.
And then 2 weeks later, I think there was the first kind of poll. I don't even remember how it worked, but in that poll, Holding On got into it, which was one of the first maps I made that was like, okay, I'm just mapping this for fun. I'm not mapping it to be ranked or whatever. And it kind of got popular for some reason, and good players started playing it, and very good players started trying to DTing it, and that got some popularity to the map.
Right.
And that was another map I didn't ever expect to get loved. But yeah, so eventually I saw the love section as like classic maps that never got the opportunity to get ranked. And while this kind of fit the description for a lot of my maps, I never really bothered like mapping for loved because it was like a lot of people actually just went like mapped for love. Like when they submitted a map, they submitted with "going for loved" on the description, and I thought that was like the cringiest thing ever for me,
Yeah.
because loved was supposed to be this selection of maps that were widely recognized by the community for a long time and never got the spotlight. So that was their spotlight, and people submitting maps for loved. That's kind of going against the point. Like I'm submitting a map to be like on this spotlight with like for what reason exactly? It was like just like a lazy way to say like, yeah, I don't feel like ranking this map, so just love it for me. So there was some kind of drama about that back then because there was for a short while the Kudosu system used for love maps.
Oh, right.
So some mappers just submitted maps, spammed Kudosu on them, and just made them get loved without like being ever popular or anything, just because they were like big modders, so they had a lot of kudosu, so they just spent a lot of it in a single map and just ranked loved whatever map they wanted. So yeah, that was kind of a weird point in loved, and it made me feel a bit like off about the section. Like, yeah, okay, I guess this is not what I felt like it was going to work. And then like when Toy took over, that was really nice. Like Toy, I actually worked with Toy in the first like few selections of Project Love. I helped
Oh,
him select a few maps. We never really like I never got really far into it because Toy liked to work alone in the beginning because he did have the time for that. He was quite active, but yeah, I did help a bit with Project Loved. But when Toy took over, it just improved a lot. It is like the section we know nowadays as Project Loved. It is like actually a huge project with a lot of people working for it
yeah, yeah.
and putting a lot of effort. So that kind of changed that stigma, like that kind of weird reputation Loved had. And for me especially, it felt like okay, this section is fine. But at the same time, I still didn't feel like okay, I'm going to map for Loved. No, I just map for myself. And like you said, like if a map is going to get popular and eventually gets loved, that's fine by me. Like that just means people like the map, and that's pretty cool, I guess. So when I made, after that, I think early to 2018, Why Am I So Angry got loved, which was a map I tried to rank in like 2011, I think, and I couldn't because the rules were changing and you needed a map set to rank maps, so you couldn't just rank one diff map set like Big Black and Airman anymore. So it was just right around that, and I kind of missed the timing with Why Am I So Angry? So I never felt like making a full map set for it, and it just spent like 7 years on Graveyard until it got loved in early 2018.
I see.
So so after that I started experimenting, as I said, like with my maps in 2018. And one of my first experiments, like it was this weird map that I found like, okay, I'm just going too overboard with this. This map is going to be stupid. No one's gonna really care about this map because it's just going to be like this strange high star map. Because I already had that experience. Like people know me for the maps that are very popular, the hard maps that are very popular. But some people don't know like about maps like Play This in Audio Surf and
Oh,
Scarlatti, which was a joke map. Both of them like they really flopped. Like no one played these maps. Like not even like the top players. No one cared about these maps, even though they were like jokes, and I didn't really want them to be good or popular. They still flopped a lot. So I was kind of getting used to this idea of like making hard maps that don't get popular. And so there is this kind of like this really flopped, I guess, feeling I had over a lot of my maps around that time. But I was still experimenting, I was still having fun. So one of the maps I made around that time, I felt really bad about it. I felt like, okay, this map is kind of okay, but I don't think anyone is going to be interested in playing that. And that map is Tool Assisted Speedcore. And that map got a reception that even like when I mapped the Mafalda map, it was actually different than that because it got popular so quickly. Like it was very strange because my other maps they just got popular with time. It was like this gradual growth. And tool assisted speedcore, it was like more like an exponential growth. It was completely different to what I was used to. So it got loved like very quickly. It was like 1 month, I think. No, it was. I just checked. It was submitted in May 2018 and loved in September. So
oh
that's like
wow.
4 months. And even then, a lot of loved maps. Most of them were still for old classics that would never got the chance to get loved, to get ranked. So this map kind of like it was one of the first maps to get into loved like that. And right before that map, actually, I did map Cyber Imagination, which was just a fun little map based on Disco's mapping. And that map got nominated for Loved because I think Toy liked it and some other people liked it. And it got denied on the Loved voting.
Oh
And that
right.
was like, I felt really, really bad about that because the Loved threshold was like 80% of yes votes or 85, I don't remember, but it got like the lowest percentage of votes. And like for a long time.
Yeah, I
And I
remember
felt really
that.
bad about that. I
Yeah.
felt like really bad. And I didn't even understand why that happened. Like, do people really hate this map or whatever? Why did this happen? I still kind of don't understand to this day what happened, but still, I don't really care that much other than the fact that I'm not going to rank the map.
Yeah,
But
I can add
yeah,
because I am the person who picked Cyber Imagination in like 2019, and then it didn't pass the vote, and I was like, yeah, I didn't understand either. So you're not the only one that was confused.
yeah. So like I think there was this notion of a few maps that I also liked around 2018 at least. I think it was before Cyber Imagination then, but there were a few maps that I liked that were personally were just classics of the game, and that people at the time just didn't really care much about them. So they usually just barely passed the voting or just got denied because they weren't like POG maps. They weren't like hard maps that were popular by players getting cool plays on it. So when I saw that tool assisted speedcore got popular, I was like, okay, that's fine. That's pretty cool. I guess a lot of players are getting interested in it. And then it got into the loved voting, and I was like, oh my god, this is not going well. Like I'm not confident that this map at all. Like this is not going to go well. And it was right at the time that I talked about like I was getting influenced by mappers like Reutz and Fort, and that these mappers didn't really like my style back then. I mapped like Caramelo de Desgraça, which is another interesting map. It's an 8-star map that got ranked, and it did not get a good reception from players. And at the time, I was really worried about that. So when tool assisted speedcore went into voting, I was like, "Hey guys, vote yes on this. It's going to be cool." And then people were like, "Yeah, sure, I was going to do that anyway." And then the results came out, and it was ridiculous. It was like 98 point something percent of yes votes. I think it was like to this day, like top three most yes voted maps. And it
Wow.
had an absurd number of votes. And I was like, oh my god, this is actually good. My map is actually good. So yeah, the map got popular, and then I kind of started doing the strategy of, I mean, nowadays it's just like kind of attention whoring in a way and just being kind of weird in general. But it was kind of a strategy of I submitted a map that I thought people would find cool. Like I didn't really map for other people, but at the same time, sometimes I submitted a map and I thought, like, I think people are going to enjoy this map. I think
Right.
people should check this map out. So the first thing I did after submitting the map was to send it to like big streamers and like good players. So one of my biggest like victims at the time was Cookiesy, and after Tool Assisted, I think Tool Assisted actually he played a lot when it was still pending. But one of the biggest interesting maps that I made that I sent it to him and I said, hey, you should play this. I think you're going to set a cool play on it. Was also Overtime by Nowhere, which was like a very, very, very different kind of map. It was my biggest experiment back then. It was a very different style than what I was used to, because at the time everyone knew me for like this kind of structured, linear, sort of like organized mapping, and then over time is like just throws that off the window and just makes some very weird patterns, very ugly patterns, stuff that goes off screen, sliders that go really fast, and that was very different. So I also thought it was gonna flop. And then Cookiesy played the map, and I remember on his side grid, he like almost FC'd the solo section, which was the hardest part of the map. And like 30 minutes later, it was like on the top of Reddit, it was on YouTube, it was getting clipped all over. Like Cookiesy gets insane play on crazy map. And like this was like the beginning of the clip era, of the God mode era.
Oh.
And people were like getting really excited about maps by just like a streamer playing them. So this is where it started, like with Overtime, and then there were maps like It's Raining Man. There was like Altar. Goodbye Moonman and whatever else. Like these kinds of maps, they were just popular pretty much because some streamer played them and did a good score on them. And I'm not gonna blame the mappers, I'm not gonna blame the players, I'm not gonna blame anyone because that's how things get popular. If it
Right.
looks interesting, then it's much more likely for people to think it's cool. Because if I sent it if I sent a map that Cookies, for example, wouldn't enjoy playing, he would play it and then he would just like get 80% tech on it because he wouldn't be playing seriously, and people would just forget the map. And that happened a couple times. But these maps, like Cookies gets a good score on it, like White Cat gets a good score on it, like everyone else, Flying Tune especially with my maps, he has a story of getting God mode moments on a few of my maps.
Oh, yeah.
And especially with Bookmaker, Bookmaker was like it has a very specific context for it to being made, but it was a map. It was also a map like Tool Assisted that I just submitted and expected people to see. Wow, that's a cool looking map, but yeah, whatever. This is kind of unplayable. And then like Cookies, no, it wasn't Cookies, but it was Flying Tuna who got a sick run on it right when it was submitted. And then Vaxay started playing the map a lot, and then it got popular because of that, and then it got more popular, and then there was this exponential growth happening all over again. And I kind of started getting used to it. It just happened a lot, like pretty much with every Cobario map. It just happened. And well, there's also Mr. Lu, but that one is specifically with Baxay because he just kind of liked the map a lot. I have no idea why, but he just really likes that map, and he plays it all the time. And solely from that, the map ended up getting loved pretty much. Because it wasn't a popular map between players, it wasn't really a popular map at all. But it just like whenever Vaxay played it, people would be like, "Oh yeah, this is the Wiggles map. This is like there's going to be some cool play on it." And people just gather around to watch Vaxay, and that just got the map popular in a way. And this kind of stuff is what I like about Loved because even though a lot of people see this as a problem, it is for me, it's interesting because people are going to enjoy what looks cool. And I don't mind Loved being a part of that. Even though it was originally like, yeah, this is a section for the classics. Eventually, kind of the classics just, well, they were all loved at some point.
Yeah.
So it started opening doors for these kinds of maps. And even though like there was the whole Goodbye Moonman getting loved drama and stuff like that, nowadays I just feel like, yeah, sure, why not? Like if players enjoy playing these maps, if people enjoy watching good players play these maps, then sure, just go for it. And that's pretty much what I think about Loved.
Yeah. I think you actually summed it up really well at the end that like loved used to be all about the classics and then now they're all loved. So what else are you supposed to put there? But I think just I actually think that perspective is really interesting that, it's perfectly okay if a map just gets popular because of like one or two like top players or, streamers, because ultimately I think, yeah, that's how that's how things sort of get popular in the first place. So someone mentioned Walter the Irish.
Yeah, I mean, there were a few interesting loved maps,
Yeah.
but still, I think the section is in a very healthy state right now. I think people
Yes.
are just like used to it by now because
Yeah.
there was some resistance at the beginning, but
Yeah.
yeah, it should be fine now.
So I have another big question that I am interested in hearing about. And then I think let's try to make time for viewer questions as well after that. So I want to ask about the Because Maybe marathons and I guess your journey through mapping the three parts, and then you also remapped the first one that you had made. But basically, you mapped the entire
Yeah.
Renard album of Because Maybe. It's like an hour-long marathon or album, right? And you started mapping it in 2011, and then you finished all of it basically in 2018. So yeah, can you just take us through that journey and I guess how that maybe affected your, I guess, mapping, or like how the different eras of your OC career affected those maps.
So yeah, that's another very interesting story. I mean, maybe not as interesting as everything else, but because maybe it started as a project in early 2011, because I was having a very big issue as a mapper. Pretty much every one of my maps was like 1 minute long, 2 minutes long at most. And whenever I tried mapping a longer song, I would just like map 1 minute and I would just give up. So I was like really disappointed because there were lots of songs that I could map that I just couldn't just be motivated about it. And well, what's the best way to like what should I say, face your fears? Just like do your worst.
Right.
And then I saw that Renard had because maybe specifically is a compilation album. Like it's not this. The songs weren't made for that album. They were like, it's like a best of album. So
Oh, I
it's a
see.
lot of songs from different Renard albums that were considered the best and most popular. And then I was like, sure. I mean, I like Renard. I'm mapping a lot of it. So sure, why not try doing this thing? And because maybe it has a lot of quirks, as everyone may know, the original idea was to map the entire thing in a single map, obviously. That does not work. And the plan B was to divide it into two parts, part one and part two. And then I did that. I divided it into two 30 minutes parts. I just like put all the MP3s into like I think it was like Sony Vegas at the time. I don't even know what I used to compile the MP3s, but I just put everything there. I just didn't even care about. I mean, I just saw the file names. Like it was like 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, whatever. I just dragged it into the timeline. I exported this as an MP3 for part one and part two, and I started mapping. And then I mapped it a bit, and then I submitted was like I think I had like 5 minutes mapped, and I submitted because maybe part one in early 2011, and it had a red background, like the album art, and it was like 30 minutes long, and like it just had 5 minutes mapped. And then I saw something weird, like there's this weird cutoff at some point. Like, is this actually supposed to happen? Like, is this correct? And then I checked, and oh my god, I'm actually mapping the ending. Oh no, I'm actually mapping one of the last songs. And then it was like song number 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and then it looped back into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh my
And then I
god.
was like, oh no. And I had already mapped like two songs by then. And I was like, I'm not going to do this over again. And at the same time, I realized that if I was going to divide it into two 30-minute parts, it was not going to work with the score limit, like the 2.1 billion score limit that Osio has,
Oh,
and it
right.
wouldn't be rankable. So at the same time, I just thought, well, guess I better do something about that. So instead of doing like mapping part one and dividing it into two parts, I changed the name to part three, and I made it so it was like the last five songs, and the other two parts would be 20 and 22 minutes long each, so it could just accommodate perfectly the 1 hour. And well, it was just like it's going to be like sort of like Star Wars with the prequels, I guess. I don't know what I'm doing, but well, now the damage is done.
Right.
So I mapped part three, and I mapped half of it in 2011, and then I just kind of forgot about it. I just didn't care anymore about the map. It just sat on my graveyard for like 1 or 2 years. And then in early 2013, I decided, okay, might as well finish this. So I started working on it again. But then there's like this very strange shift in style that I already had made. because in 2011, what I used to do was just I put a certain spacing on a map, which was like usually like 0.8 in the editor or 1.0, and I would map the entire thing with it. Like I would maybe place one or two jumps that disrespected that spacing. But yeah, it would be like a kind of high spaced map with some jumps, and the streams and bursts would be kind of spaced. And then, like, if you kind of notice it, there's this point in, because maybe part three, the old one, where the map spacing just gets low. It gets really low. It turns into a linear map completely. And then it starts having some weird angled jumps that most people can't have see to this day because they are very weird. And that was like the difference between my 2011 and 2013 style. So like I think it's mostly like in that shift between the 220 and 240 section, where it's just like the mapping style completely changes. So you go from having some high-spaced bursts and streams to like the easiest parts of the entire marathon. Like the last two songs on the original part three, Take You for a Ride and The Entire World, they are like 5 stars each. If you look at today's like star rating, and the rest of the map was like 6 point something. And these two songs were like supposed to be the most intense ones of the entire album. So that was kind of weird, but at the time I was just glad I finished the project. So okay, I finished part three. Okay, I managed to get it ranked eventually. Like it didn't too long, and then I started working immediately on part two. And part two kind of had the same issue. It starts like the first song has a very similar style to part three, and then I just forget about the map for whatever, like 1 year or so. And then in, I think it was like late 2015, I started working on it again. Uh, and curiously enough, I talked a lot on this interview about how 2015 has my worst style, how it was so disconnected from mapping. And yet at the same time, I was just like going off on Because Maybe Part 2. I think it's still one of my best maps player wise. Like, it's one of my most fun maps to play to this day. I have no idea how that happened, but it was just like this very specific style that was hard. And at the same time, it actually felt like comfortable and still challenging. It was this weird thing that never really happened before in my maps. So like the middle part of Because Maybe Part 2, especially like Sinister, the the Smoke Tower part, and Space Dragon style part, like that part, which is widely considered like the best part by many players, it's also the most popular by far. It kind of got like that specific style that would work so well as like the Because Maybe style. And even though I kind of went off on the end of part two, there's like a huge diff spike because I just thought the song was intense enough. It's still like a very solid map. I was very satisfied with it by the end. And then Bonsai, who was BN and like one of my biggest friends in the community at the time, he helped me a lot with the map, with making it even better. He like helped me with hit sounding it, and it has like this unique charm. Like part two, I think, even though you may argue that part one or part three map are better mapped, part two is like the coolest one for most people.
Yeah.
And then like after that, I started working on Because Maybe part one. I think it was late 2015. No, I think it was early 2016 actually, and it kind of went on like exactly the same way as part three and part two. I worked on it for like 5 minutes of the map, and then I just kind of let it on the graveyard for a while. And in 2018, I like worked on it again. But because maybe part one, I think like since I had so much more experience on mapping, I could at least replicate the style that I did on the first 5 minutes, and it didn't feel so disconnected as the beginning of part three or part two. even though part one is not like that iconic or that great, it was still like I finished the projects. That's what matters. I remember mapping the last 2 or 3 minutes of part one. I was like just like on a very inspired time for mapping. It was 2018, so it was just at the time I was making a lot of maps, and I remember being very sick. I was just like coughing a lot. I was sneezing a lot. I was so tired. I was so exhausted. But it was like 3 a.m. I came home like it was from a family dinner party or something, and I saw that it was I just needed like 2 more minutes to map, and I was like, okay, screw it, I'm doing this now.
Oh, wow.
And I finished it in like that night, and I just felt like, okay, this is done. This is actually done. And then like I ranked the map, okay, sure, whatever, and then it got a lot of attention on Reddit and whatever else for, okay, Blue Dragon has finally finished his project. This is so cool. This is awesome. But then one of the promises that I had made for myself at the time when I started mapping, because maybe was that when I finished the entire project, I would make a map that was like the three parts together in 1 hour. So I did that. I compiled again the songs in the right order this time, thankfully, and everything went smoothly. I managed to, after struggling a lot with timing sections and the editor crashing because it is a 60-minute map. The editor is not supposed to handle that. It would like I would open the editor and then 5 minutes later, it would like also would be consuming like 2 GB of memory, and I had like four on my
Oh
PC at
my
the time,
god.
so that was not very nice. But it was still like a very, 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 very cool thing. Like I could finally do the thing with the background where it just goes like red, green, blue. I submitted the map, and then I looked at the map, and I instantly went on, and I thought, wait, this part three fucking sucks. Like I was very honest about that, like with myself. Part three is terrible. Part three does not make sense with the other two parts. It's completely off in every possible sense. Like it is a linear low spacing map that has a few diff spikes that are very inconsistent. It like the peak of the entire album, the 240 BPM section, the most intense songs, they are like 5 stars, while some songs in Because Maybe Part One are like 7.5, and they aren't even like that important. And it was just like, no, this doesn't work. This needs a remap. So I think it was like early 2019, like I thought to myself, well, I guess I'm just going to try mapping some diffs for this Because Maybe map set. So Because Maybe 3 remap was originally supposed to be like just a bunch of new difficulties on the 60-minute set, and they were just like some bonus difficulties, like this is how Because Maybe Part 3 would be if it was mapped nowadays.
Right.
And then I mapped like 2 minutes of it, and then the following day I'm at like 3 more minutes, and then the following day I'm at like 3 more minutes, and in an entire week I finished the part three remap.
Wow.
That was kind of insane because each of the three original parts each took like 2 years of procrastinating to finish, and part three remap being finished in a single week without the hit sounds. It took me like 1 more week to hit sound it, but that just like it was my proof that the original intent of Because Maybe it had worked. I could bring myself to make longer maps and finish them. So that was kind of a realization that, oh wow, this is actually awesome. This actually the entire Because Maybe thing worked for me to remap Because Maybe. But it was very hard for me to rank Because Maybe part 3 remap because wow, it was an 8-star map. It was this kind of weird time in ranking where hard maps were starting to become more common, but they still weren't like exactly popular between mappers. So there were a few maps like Time Freeze, everything will freeze, like Operation. Mazarin was starting to rank a lot of maps then, and they were starting to get some acceptance. And that was when I thought to myself, okay, so now I better just try to rank this. And then after a lot of talking with players, top players, and well, it kind of just because maybe part three was one of the maps I changed the most, like the remap uh, from from how it was when I submitted it, due to player feedback. Because there were a lot of people interested in trying to FC because maybe part three. A lot of top players were like, "Hey, this is going to be a cool score." So I did like ask a lot of help from these players, and they gave a lot of input, like especially the ending that you know now. It was nerfed and buffed in several points at several times. So if you try to look at the entire world difficulty in the 60 minimum map set, the because maybe part 3.1 version, the ending is kind of completely different than it was like. I think I actually changed a bit, but anyway, it is like a map that changes a lot from player feedback. And then it just kind of now I actually felt like, okay, I'm finished. I'm actually done with this. This project, because maybe is ranked, all the three parts, the remap are done, and it is officially done. I will never ever have to map another Renard marathon. And then like I thought to myself, like, wow, life kind of sucks when you're not mapping a Renard marathon. I kind of got like, I mean, yeah, I mean, I could be mapping a Renard marathon right now. Then on, I think it was like February 2020. So because maybe, as I said before, it is a compilation album made in 2010 by Renard with songs from a lot of different albums that were considered really good. And like a few months before, because maybe it was released, another album was released called This Place Will Grow EP. And that album I completely loved. I thought it was like the best Renard songs. I thought these songs were amazing. And none of them got into Because Maybe, and I thought that was really weird. But like time passed and I kind of tried mapping some of these songs, but I never felt motivated to finish them, except Why Am I So Angry, which I did map like pretty much when it came out. But then I just remember everything about that. In 2020, I thought to myself, okay, I might as well do this. And then This Place Will Grow had pretty much the exact same like process of Because Maybe Part 3 remap. It just like was done in a week. I think even the hit sounds were done in the same week. It was very quickly done. I managed to find a few BNs like kind of quickly to rank it, and then I was done. I, but I mean, this is also a very long answer, but still, I feel like the biggest uh, thing about Because Maybe was that I wanted to be able to map longer songs. And when you look at my latest 10 or 15 maps, a lot of them are like on 5 minute songs or 6 minute songs, or like very stuff that I wouldn't even bother touching before that. So even though Because Maybe as a project is like something to think about a lot, like it is something to be proud of, I think I am even more proud that about the fact that it actually helped me to be able to map a bigger variety of songs that I wouldn't have touched before. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think definitely achieved your goal. I think you faced your fears, and that I think was very successful. So that's actually really interesting. I think the ups and downs of Because Maybe, and I guess I had no idea about how like the last part of it was just mapped when you were sick. That is very interesting. I remember you mapped some of it on stream, or was that the part three remap or something
Yeah,
like that?
part three remap was pretty much like 90% mapped on stream. It had like the first 10%, which I talked about, was supposed to be just a difficulty from the other map set. And then when I started streaming it, I was already like, okay, I'm gonna try finishing this. And then I streamed like every day for like 3, 4, even 5 hours mapping. And I just would finish one song every stream. And that was like completely insane for me because I was mapping it really fast. I was actually enjoying mapping it, and I was mapping it kind of well. Like, because maybe part 3, the original, was kind of rushed at some points because I just wanted to get it over with. And the remap was like, I'm actually enjoying this. I'm talking to people on stream. This process is being interesting. And then I had to hit sound it for a week, and that was the worst week of my life because I hate hit sounding and it's so boring. But still, yeah, I did map a lot of it in stream, and that helped a lot to motivate me to, like, I'm not just going to just end the stream and not map anymore. So it brought me to map most of it on stream, and that helped a lot with motivating.
Yeah, I think in my experience too, I think when I'm streaming something, it helps me to stay focused. So, yes, let's see. Yeah, I did want to make time for a couple viewer questions. So, those of you listening live, if you have any questions you'd like to ask as we wrap up this interview, you can put them in the live chat. And then also, if you see someone else's question that you would also want asked, if you could react to it with a thumbs up emoji, that way we can keep track of everything. But while the questions come in, Mismagius, if you have any sort of key takeaways or takeaway messages that you want to share with people for either staying motivated in the game or I guess purpose for playing this game and sticking with the community and things like that.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for for like having me today. Like this is this kind of came as a shock to me because I never thought of myself as something that could bring motivation to others. So that was really kind of weird to me at first, but then I just came to terms with it over the week, and I feel like much more prepared to talk about it.
Oh, that's
And
good.
I'm also sorry for the long answers, but
No, no,
yeah,
no,
I
no.
mean it's been a while on this game, so I do
Yeah,
have a lot.
you definitely have a lot to share with everyone, and I think the stories that you told were in a very, I guess, like compelling way or a very interesting way that you told the stories. So hopefully, I think everyone who is listening this far in is as intrigued as I am. So
Yeah, I mean, it started as like, um, how can I say it? I would say that as I talked about my story in the game, it just like instantly made me realize how motivation was closely tied to it. Like
yeah,
my worst moments on the game were when I wasn't feeling well about the game in my life. My best moments in the game were when I was feeling the most motivated. So there's like this huge like ups and downs thing over the years. Of
right.
course, I haven't been like the most motivated player all the time, but when I was motivated, it felt like I was doing the right thing. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I think an important message that I think I want people to take from these interviews because I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm like losing motivation and how can I make sure I'm motivated all the time? And I think, even the most, active or people that have been around for a very long time, like even they were not always, motivated like every single day of their time playing Osu or really doing anything. So I think hopefully that,
Yeah, I mean
yeah,
there's so much that I can talk about those, but the main thing I take away from all my experiences, just like what I mentioned before about finding your own enjoyment in the game, and not just in a just like generic please enjoy game way. It's just about like, I wouldn't say carefully, but like pay attention to what you enjoy in the game, and at the same time try to um, keep an open mind about other things. Don't just focus on one thing. And if you don't like something, try to rationalize it. Try to think, wait, why don't I like this thing? Because there were many moments in my, especially in my player career, that I felt like I mean, I hate space streams, I hate slider streams, I hate this kind of pattern, I hate that. But that was just because I couldn't play that. I mean, my playstyle doesn't help, and there's a lot. That's like a whole other wormhole, like the rabbit hole, not wormhole, but still, um, to fall into. But at the same time, when I realized, like, okay, I don't like this because I'm bad at it. What if I try playing it to improve it, but like not too seriously, like just try to find something I can enjoy about these things. And especially with space streams, that helped me a lot. Because Step X is like a playstyle that does not work with space streams at all. And when I found ways to kind of make that work with tablet filters and whatever else, I felt like a new world opened for me in the game. Like, wow, now I can play this entire style of mapping that I wouldn't even touch before, and I can have fun doing it. So that's a huge motivation, like thing that just goes when you can't do it, you just think that you aren't going to be able to do it, and you just don't bother trying. But when you get this initial spark of motivation, then it just becomes like a new world to explore, and that's when you can make it much more interesting for yourself.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Um, yeah, I think I've sort of experienced something similar with like sort of always being weaker on like certain types of maps. And then whenever I actually do practice that stuff and get better at it, then I'm like, okay, yeah, these maps are actually fun when you can actually play them. So definitely agreed.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone remembers my AskFM days, one of the maps that I would like every single time I had the opportunity, I would just like say, this map sucks, this map should not be ranked, this map is bad. It was Fungen's Dopamine, like
Oh.
Dopamine, which was a very popular, one of the first considered tech maps. And I would constantly say, that map sucks. It really sucks. It's so bad because it's not fun to play. It's so bad and it's bad. And I never really got into like why it's bad. And in the end, it was about me being bad at everything that the map entailed. Like it had 1.8 slider streams, which I couldn't do because my computer lagged at the time whenever there was a slider stream, and I also just kept slider breaking. I couldn't do anything that was spaced, even burst, so I would just like struggle at them. I couldn't do like the complex zigzag patterns, which are all over the map. I couldn't do the 1/3 jumps. So everything about the map was just things I couldn't do. It was never about the map being bad. It was just like me being bad at the map in in a way. But at the same time, it was like me trying to reject the idea that something that I couldn't play or couldn't enjoy, like I couldn't accept the idea that that was actually good. And then when I actually became good at all these, I mean, good is strong word, but when I became better at all of these things that I struggled so much with, I played the map again and I got addicted into it. It was really fun. It was actually one of the most fun maps for me for a while, and I could grind it and I could enjoy it. And well, it's kind of like having an open mind. I mean, you are always free to dislike things. You are always free to have strong opinions against things. But at the same time, when you can open your mind, when you can just try to rationalize what you don't like about things, then it becomes much more clear, like sometimes even what you can improve as a player or as a mapper or whatever else in your life. Because if I didn't like start bothering myself over the whole space stream thing, I would have never tried to get better at it, and I would have never set many of the scores that I feel most proud of today, and that motivate me to keep playing. So it's kind of a cycle that you can enter and that it can be very beneficial to you.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I think definitely I think that of many things that we've talked about so far is like really motivational to like have improved something that you're weak at, and then you know it can really go a long way, I think.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I'm sorry for interrupting again.
no, you're good. You're good.
But something I actually kind of glossed over in this entire interview was about PP, because
Oh,
I always struggled so much with farming PP ever since the start of PPV2. I never could do PP maps, even before the 1-2 jump era, and I never really bother farming. So some of you may know, but when PPV2 got released, I was ranked 200, and I actually decayed for such a long time that I just went straight from 200 to like 1000, and like if I think it was 1500. Like it was one of my worst ranks, and it was straight from my best rank just from decaying. And over the years, I've always had a hate-hate relationship with PP mapping, because I couldn't really stand it as a mapper, and I couldn't play it as a player. So it was like one of my most demotivating things for a long time, because I just couldn't enjoy the game everyone else was enjoying, and I couldn't prove myself to be good in what was the quote, like what can I say, like objective way to measure skill that many people consider. So I felt like I was kind of underranked, but at the same time, I felt like I deserved to be lower ranked, because I couldn't do these kinds of maps. And that's something that persisted for a very long time. Like this isn't, I'm not speaking like 2014, 2015. It was like last year I had a lot of trouble dealing with that. And then mostly this year actually was when I kind of confronted this idea. I spent like 3 months, 3 or 4 months, trying to get good at PP mapping, at playing PP mapping. And I started by trying to use my playstyle on it, and it didn't work because PP jumps are often like high BPM jumps, like 270, 280, 290, especially at like the lower 3 digits rank. The maps are usually on this BPM, so you are either a speed prodigy that can also aim, or you have to alternate. And with Apex, you can't really alternate unless you're like some kind of finger control god. You can't alternate these very fast jumps. And so I forced myself to stop playing Tapex for a while, and I exclusively, for like 2 or 3 months, I would exclusively play as a normal player like ZX. I still held the pen with my left hand, and I tried to tap with the two keys as everyone else does. And I pretty much at the time exclusively played PP maps, and that was the worst period of my playing career by far, because I mean I was already playing maps that I didn't really enjoy, and I wasn't improving. And that's something I feel like many people can relate to, about playing PP maps and feeling like you're stuck in a wall and that you can't improve. Like, I'm not talking about just retry spamming on a pattern. I'm not talking about just getting mind blocked. No, I'm talking about not being good enough to FC something. And these maps weren't exactly like the pinnacle of difficulty. They were like one of the maps I played the most was one of the Chica Chica map sets. It was like the second to last difficulty. Actually, it wasn't even the last 8-star difficulty. Keep in mind it was like 3 digits. So many people like on 4 digits could farm the last diff, and I couldn't even like A rank the second to last diff. That's how bad I was feeling like. And it wasn't like just, oh, I played this once or twice. Like my local leaderboard on these maps had like 100, 200 scores
Oh my
on
god.
these maps. Like I think I even got my the guinea pig map. It went straight from like 0 place to, I think it is in my top played maps. I don't feel any proud of it. And it was just straight from playing the map over and over. and just trying to improve on it and not getting any result out of it. So eventually I kind of gave up. I felt really bad about it. Felt like I wasn't going anywhere. And I just kind of stuck again to Tap X. And then I felt like I could improve in other parts of the game. I could just forget about PP mapping and well, I and then like it struck me that one of the strategies that I kind of tried a few times before, but that I never really took seriously was that actually trying to farm with stuff that I can play. And in the past, it did work a bit, but not much. But then, like, one of the first speed reworks happened. I think this was actually like before this whole like ZX PP farm experience. But when the first speed rework came out and people were actually starting to get PP from speed maps, I had a so this is another topic, but I had a very bad screen that it was very dark, so I couldn't read anything above AR9. So I just played any speed map that was AR8 or above. I would play with easy. And at the time, easy DT, you could get PP from it. And that was like, oh my god, I'm actually getting PP from things I'm good at. And like I farmed a lot of maps. I did a lot of scores that were pretty much insane for a long time. My Shonen A, like the Mysterica map, 2009, I think
Oh, right,
that's
right.
yeah, it's like 2000, 200, not 2000, but 288 BPM stream map. And I think I got the first DT. Like I've seen it. It wasn't DT, it was easy DT, but it was like almost 500 PP, and that was insane to me. Like I'm actually getting rewarded at the stuff I'm good at. And then Hidamari happened, and then people started finding out about Hidamari, and then I farmed Hidamari myself with easy DT. I'm not gonna lie, but it was my way of just kind of coping with the fact that everyone else for such a long time could just spam these PP jump maps, and I couldn't. And for once, I could play something that others couldn't. I could abuse something that others couldn't. So that for me, even though I farmed Hidamari, I did stuff that I'm not exactly proud of. It was still like this is my moment. This is like I'm going to set some cool scores on these maps. One of the coolest scores by far that I made at this time was like early this year, like January, I think. I easy DT FC the Squirrel Pascal's map, Silver Owl. The map has like 3 or 4 no mod FCs. It has like I think it's like a 200 notes long, 270 BPM stream in the
Oh my
middle of the
god.
map. I mean, the entire map is like 3 stars, and then there's this stream, and then it goes back to 3 star. I mean, the ending gets a bit hard, but it was essentially my version of Hidamari, and I got like a 540 PP from it. It was like absolutely insane. It was completely absurd to get so much PP from that. And not just because it was like it was actually a very good play, but at the same time I was getting rewarded this very specific skill set that that no one else ever cared about that I had. And then like the nerfs happened, and then EasyDT got put into the gutter, and then that's when I like the whole PP farm thing happened with me changing playstyles. I tried playing mouse for a while after the whole the whole thing not working with changing playstyle. I sold my tablet. I I bought a decent mouse and I tried to play mouse. And that kind of worked for a while. Like I could set some 300 PP scores or whatever, but it was like I was high 4 digit at the time. It was never going to be anything worth for me. So when I got another tablet that I felt like playing again on TapX, I started focusing again on my skill sets, on whatever I could do best. And that's when I felt like more motivated again. And then, well, I mean, this is very recent, but when this last reward hit, Well, I mean, you can see just see my current graph on my profile, like the rank graph. It is absolutely insane. It is the biggest climb in one single day that I've ever had, and it's not even like the direct effect of the rework, because the rework put me from like 1100 to like 850 or something like that. But in the same day, I saw that these maps were getting buffed, and that some of these maps were actually things that I was actually good at, and that I've never really cared about actually, because I felt like, okay, this is just like my skill set. It's not going to reward me for anything. It's like it's just going. If I FC this, it's just going to put me on this 2010 leaderboard that no one's going to care much. Even if I set a unique score, like some player who hasn't played the map and is better than me, he's just going to get a better score at some point. So I never really cared about it. And then all of a sudden, I could actually get rewarded from maps that I could play before, but I never cared. So then I played. This is like all from this week, by the way. So it is very recent.
Oh yeah.
I played a few Gabi maps that got buffed a lot. I started, and then I set my first 600 play ever, 600 PP, and that really motivated me to keep trying. And then I set another like 590, and then like these two maps were like overweighted. They were kind of broken. I mean, there was State of Mind too that I farmed that was broken, but I was like, okay, I mean, I guess I can try playing some other maps that I didn't care much. And then I started seeing them. And then I started seeing some maps that I couldn't do before. And then I started like setting some scores that were like beyond my skill like level. And it just started going on and on and on. I would just like have sessions where I had so much, so many ridiculous scores that I never thought it would ever be possible. And that's where when I talked about the little spark of motivation, when you can like ride it and try to make it bigger, that's what it matters the most. Because when I got like my first 600, that was like the starting point. Like, okay, I guess I can try some other stuff. And then I tried some other stuff and it worked. And then I tried other stuff and it kept working and it kept working. And then I just realized, okay, I think I'm actually kind of good at the game. Like for once in like I don't know how many years I had felt like that for the last time. Like I'm actually doing scores that I feel like are relevant at some point. And then like when I did my Neomax DTFC, like my reaction on the stream was I was when for comparison, when I set other good plays on like loved maps or old maps or even unique plays, I would always be like, yeah, yeah, okay, like I would scream and whatever, but like, okay, I grinded for this. This is okay. This is pretty cool, I guess. But with Neomax, I was legit speechless. I spent like 3 minutes staring at the screen, and I was like, I did this. I actually did this. I don't know what even to think. This is like something that was this is like beyond end game for me. Because Neomax, like the DT leaderboard for Neomax, had like scores from Iru, from Septin, from very good players, and they had like B ranks with 10, 20 misses and like 200 combo. And I just kind of see the map just by trying it a bit, and for the first time I felt like I'm actually doing something that I can be very proud of as a player. Maybe someone else is going to snipe me, maybe someone else is going to set a better score. But at one point in time, I just did something that no one else had ever came close to. And that was like one of the biggest moments in my Osu career. And well, this happened like what, 5 days ago?
Yeah.
So that's very interesting timing for the interview. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's never like this is something that I also posted on Twitter and that Ekoro replied with that it's very interesting that there's never like um, the end to there's never like a peak when you say like, oh, I peaked last month, I peaked like 1 year ago. I mean I've been playing this game. This is like kind of my takeaway message from all of this. So it's very fitting to be at the end. But in the 13 years that I played this game, like I just, even though I had hit many walls, I had like very weird moments of demotivation and just not wanting to play the game again. If you kind of look into it, like I was bad at the game at some point, and then I kept improving. I kept improving. I had hit some walls, but I kept after that I improved. Then I hit some walls again and I improved. And when you compare like my like today's scores to like 2017 scores that I thought that were awesome at the time and were my peak for a long time, like my current scores crush these older scores. And I thought for the longest time that I had peaked there. So what Ekoro said on the reply to the tweet was like, there's like the peak is now. You're going to peak like whenever you want to. You still have time, and there's no such thing as just like I'm not going to get good as I was before. I mean, unless something very specific happens, I mean, but when we're talking specifically about motivation, it's literally just you between yourself and like getting better. So whenever you think like, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get as good as I was. I think that's like, you just have to view it from another angle. You have to view it as like that you know that at some point you are going to improve. And this is something hard because you can't just put that in your head like, yeah, sure. I mean, I am going to be better. It's not something that just happens. It just kind of happens naturally, and that's what I like talk about over naturally exploring and finding yourself in the game. Because if you try to force something, it's not going to work. You just have to play it and enjoy it in your own way, like I did. Like, I mean, the rework also helped, but when the rework was just like the starting point, and then after that, it was all myself. The improvement was by myself.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good message. I know a lot of people feel like, oh, I can't be as good as I was like last month or like even like a year ago or something like that. And yeah, definitely a strong takeaway from someone who's been playing for so many years. So much appreciated message. So I want to probably go through some of these live chat questions and then see if we
Yeah,
can
okay,
wrap
I'll
things
try
up.
to answer them more quickly now.
Okay, no, no,
I'll
no,
try to be shorter.
all good. Okay, so first question comes from Control, who asked, "What inspired you to start posting memes on Twitter?" And I think this also started on AskFM as well.
Yeah, AskFM was like like my way of just posting whatever I felt like that didn't feel specific to a certain topic and that I could interact with community. So I usually just post some nonsensical gifs that were funny, or I mean it was 2015, so times were different, but I could just answer with whatever nonsense I had. And a lot of people like that. And I thought to myself that I could kind of be an entertainer of sorts. So when I came to Twitter, like my Twitter account is from 2010, but I only started being active on it on the OSU community after 2016, and especially on 2017, 2018. I started posting these memes just as like a way to just like, okay, I had this idea for a joke and I think it's pretty funny, so yeah. And it was also like kind of a way for me to sometimes practice editing videos or just like editing in general, or just trying to learn something, applying an idea of a joke or whatever else. And it just kind of grew. And more people started being interested in the memes. And like there's this kind of standard of posting only bangers and stuff that I'm not really into, but still it's kind of that's I do appreciate it that I've got such a reputation for some people. And I mean, the fact that people got interested is what motivated me. for the longest time, because if I posted these things and no one really cared, then I would have stopped for sure. But nowadays, I'm just in a weird state where I just try to not blow up too much, because attention also attracts negative attention. So I'm always trying to just like, I just post something nowadays if I feel like, okay, this is harmless enough to not cause any trouble. So this is why you see me posting less often on the main account, and just like talking random stuff on my other account, because I have, I mean, I'm not being exactly very humble here, but I've got such a big reach on the main account that it just went to a point of no return. So I have to be kind of careful about what I tweet, because there's this expectation that it's going to be a banger, that it's going to be a cool meme, and that when I don't achieve that expectation, things can turn into drama very quickly. And as much as I was part of many dramas, I actually am not a big fan of them. So yeah, this is my meme history.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think a lot of people, you've definitely done a good job sort of creating that reputation for yourself, whether or not it's always wanted. But I think you also do a good job of separating that with your other Twitter account as well. So, all right, next question from Sweeks, who asked, Blue Dragon, do you think some maps are still being ignored by BNs or not ranked due to having too high difficulty these days? And also, what do you think about the current ranking process?
So the current ranking process, I would say like I 50% just kind of stopped caring about it, and I 50% just accepted that it wasn't going to change, because it can't really improve in a way. So when I complained a lot about BNs being like biased and ranking their own friends maps, I mean, sure, that happens. That's the truth. But at the same time, BNs are also people, obviously. That's the argument everyone uses. But that also means like that these people have very specific tastes. And that I used to think like, okay, no one likes this. No one, like I would just spam every BN and no one would accept. But nowadays, at least, there's like such a big variety of people with different tastes, that if you can't get a map ranked, then I mean, at least I think so, that you either aren't trying to enough. I mean, if you aren't trying enough, or you didn't reach the right person, or there is something wrong with your map, or well, then you're just very unlucky. Because I mean, I would say 2 years ago, 3 years ago, there was a huge problem, because there was this kind of meta, and the BN team was also like more restrictive over what they wanted to rank. But nowadays, there's like this kind of freedom in mapping. The whole thing about just mapping being like all over the place in good and bad ways. But the ranking process is like, I would say 20% about the quality of the map, and 80% about talking to people and approaching them and making sure you approach the right people. You don't have to like make false connections, social climbing or whatever else. It doesn't have to be like that. You just have to like um, see like what certain BNs are more inclined to accept, and even if you can't get like a nomination from them, you can at the very least get feedback, which is also very important. So when you get feedback, you can improve your map, but at the same time you are talking to a BN, you are showing interest in getting better at mapping, and that's what some BNs also want to see. They don't want to be like just treated like objects. And that's something I didn't really understand for a long time. I just thought that system wasn't fair, and I get that a lot of people get frustrated over it. I still don't have like the easiest time ranking my maps, but I know that nowadays it's just because I feel like I either haven't tried hard enough, or I'm just doing something wrong, because there's such a huge variety of all different styles of maps getting ranked that someone is going to enjoy whatever you made, unless, like, I don't know, you really screwed up at some point. But I
Right.
see I see that many people have, like, just last few words about this. Many people talk about, like, yeah, the ranking section sucks because, like, there are many good unranked maps that don't get ranked, and a lot of these maps are indeed good, but they often fall just to the criteria of the mapper not caring enough or not reaching the right person. And that's pretty much it. It's not because there is some unfair ranking system that doesn't like certain styles. I feel that already happened at some point, but not anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
that's it.
the other, I guess, part of the question is, do you think that maps get ignored because of the difficulty these days, or not really?
I would say that, like, as I said before, like 3 or 4 years ago, yeah, for sure, like you couldn't rank anything higher than, like, 7 point something stars. And then as the limits started getting pushed further and further, and, like, the current BNs are people who have grown in this current also environment where top players are very good and they play hard maps, and these very hard maps are playable by certain people. So, like, these BNs are just have to make sure that the map quality is good enough, and that the difficulty of the map doesn't exactly just it can, like, have an influence on that, but more often than not, as long as you have a BN that is interested enough in the map or the song, I feel like it doesn't really affect that much, especially compared to how it was a few years ago.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think there's been some like 11-star or 12-star maps that were ranked. I don't know if any 12-star, but yeah, definitely very, very
Yeah,
high.
Polestar got qualified, I think. Then yeah, and that one caused some drama, but still, I mean, that is pushing a bit too far, even for today's limits.
Yeah. So let's see. Another question that came in from Catspin, who asked, I want to map more things, but I have a hard time finding songs to map. Any tips on finding songs that are motivating to map?
So about mapping, the biggest change that I made in my mapping, like, um, philosophy in, like, 2018, and so was that I wasn't really going to map songs that would make for like maps that would be hype or whatever or would be good. And I feel like many people who are struggling with mapping do have this mindset of, um, I have to find a song that makes for an interesting map. And while I understand that, I also feel like my biggest motivation as a mapper is to just map songs that I like. So even when I accepted commissions, I would always, like, focus on stuff that I liked. Like, if someone asked me to map, like, a 5 minute lolly vocal song about whatever else, like anime stuff, I wouldn't really. I would just say, like, dude, I mean, I'm glad you're paying me money to map this, but it doesn't really motivate me to map stuff like that. I feel like if I try to map this, I wouldn't be delivering a high quality product. I really wouldn't be doing a good service to you because I just wouldn't enjoy doing it.
Right.
So my biggest like motivation for mapping is to just, like, map songs I like, regardless of whether it's going to be like the an interesting map for everyone else. As long as someone just enjoys the song, they are probably going to enjoy the map, especially if it's something different than usual. I mean, if you're mapping just like a song that has been mapped 20 times, of course, you do have to bring something to the table. But if you just want to map songs that you enjoy and just, like, try to bring a new experience to the game, I mean, what matters is that you're just mapping something you enjoy. And there isn't, like, this specific kind of song that you should try mapping.
So
So yeah.
do you have any suggestions for places that you find songs, or like where do you usually find songs to map, other than maybe throughout Osu?
Yeah, for the longest time it was just Osu. Maybe YouTube randomly recommended something to me, but I did have like a very closed mind on it. I would occasionally just like scroll through recommendations on YouTube and find something, but it did get kind of stale at some point. Nowadays, just like the the songs that I usually find are just through Spotify recommendations, because I did make a like when I started using Spotify, I made a lot of playlists and I listened to like with songs that I already knew and I liked, and I listened to those playlists like over and over, and then the big algorithm kind of understood that, and it started recommending me songs that I may enjoy or not. And while most of the time it misses a lot, and it just keeps recommending me some weird garage rock that I'm not really interested into, every once in a while it just shows me a banger that I absolutely love and start hearing it listen to it over and over again. Like my latest ranked map, Dot in the Sky. That one I found through Spotify was just like listening to some random recommended playlist. And then that song started playing, and I was like, oh, this sounds kind of cool. And then I listened to it again and again and again and again. And at some point, I was like, okay, I just like this song too much. I have to map it. So usually it's just like through sheer luck or algorithm or whatever you call it. But I mean, if you want to find different kinds of songs, you can always explore YouTube. Like YouTube has a lot of different stuff. It usually recommends some weird stuff as well, and you can just go from there to other albums or songs or whatever. So there is a lot of there are a lot of different places that you can just just explore. It's more about exploring. It's not like going with like I want to find this specific kind of song. No, you should just go with an open mind, kind of like bitmaps, So you just go with an open mind and you just hope to find something cool, whatever it is. And that's pretty much how it came to me, like for the past 2 years to find cool new songs.
Yeah, I think you shouldn't really try to find the songs. I think the good songs will just find you over time as long as you're
Yeah,
open to
pretty
them.
much.
All right, so let's take, I think, two more questions. So one of them comes from Brix, who asked, when did Squirrel Pascals become a mapping inspiration?
So Sparrow, I don't even remember like the first time we interacted, but I do remember that the first map I saw from him was Frank, I think Parks or something. I don't even remember the song name, but it was like some CS7, I think, like some high CS bitmap that's like 3 stars or so. And I just loved how he just managed to bring everything I liked about call maps and just make it work so well. And I did kind of take that as an inspiration of sorts, but it was like a minor inspiration. But when I started talking to Squirrel more, like he became kind of a friend of sorts. We never really interacted too much, but whenever we interacted, it was very positive. Um, we do share a lot of our music taste, like it is very similar. So whenever I just checked any of his new maps or whatever else, I would find a song that I loved, or if I like, even if I found a song I loved, there was also the fact that I would usually also love the map. And Squirrel Pascals, he did have like he has this kind of philosophy that some other mappers like Ancelesia, Silverboxer, Rustbell, who are my current inspirations, biggest inspirations, that pretty much every map is a different experience. You don't really apply a style to a map. You just go like, okay, this song should have this. It's not exactly like a gimmick, but at the same time, usually it does feature gimmicks. But it's like, how can I really explain it? It's like this song has this experience. I'm going to try to replicate this experience in a map, and it's hopefully going to be interesting. And this is what I see a lot in the mappers that I currently take inspiration from, especially Squirrel, which like I mean Squirrel is my biggest one because of the similar music taste, and he has like GD'd for me like many times in the last few years. So in like the last one of the latest ranked maps, he has an insane diff, and we just share music like songs all the time. And this also helps me to kind of it also answers the previous question because many of the songs that I learned to love were from Squirrel's recommendations.
Oh, so I guess having other people that also have similar music tastes and then they can suggest songs to you also.
Yeah, this is very cool because
Right.
yeah, it helps you with your music taste. It also helps you find cooler songs, and then it also like how can I say it? But you interact with other people over similar tastes. You establish connections, and especially with other mappers, you can learn a lot with these connections. So that's very important too, to improve as a mapper as well.
Right. Yeah. And I definitely agree. I think that the way that you worded Squirrel's style as sort of just however the song feels, you just try to match that as much as possible because he definitely, I think, has some very unique maps throughout his whole, all the different maps that he's made. So, yes,
Yeah,
good,
exactly.
good answer. All right, so let's take one more question. This comes from Kip, who asked, what do you think defines a map? Is it how the map represents the song, or how much effort was put into the map?
I think that's very hard to define because each map, I mean, in my current philosophy at least, I mean, I've changed opinion a lot over the times, but I mean, mostly it's just what are you doing with your map? What are you trying to achieve with your map? Like the thing that matters the most for me, like ever since the beginning of us, is the context in which the map is inserted. Like when I analyze, like let's say Crazy Loop, which is a map from 2008, I'm not going to judge it based on like how patterns represent intensity or how the difficulty correlates to the song. I am going to analyze it based on the context of it being mapped in 2008, of the styles that existed in that era that it could have taken inspiration from, and how the map just inserts itself into that context. So Crazy Loop, for example, I mean, if you show it to pretty much anyone, like if you put it on a multiplayer match from nowadays, people are just going to quit and just complain and say that this sucks and stuff like that. But when I analyze it, I just see it as like one of the best 2008 maps because it just does so much like creative stuff while keeping some consistency, and it also just flows really well. It is a fun map to play, and it doesn't really feel frustrating at any point like many maps of the time. So like when you analyze, for example, a more recent map, let's say I don't know, whatever tech map like that you see like the 10 times slider velocity tech maps that people like to. I mean, some people love it, some people hate them, but when you analyze this kind of map, at least for me, I don't really analyze the effort that was put into it. When I made my mapping tier list that I did on Twitter, like I don't even know how long ago. I think it was just a few months ago. There were a lot of mappers that didn't have really polished maps, but what they were trying to achieve was like really interesting. They were trying to do some very nice experiences, and even like simpler mappers, these were some of the ones that I liked the most because a very funny thing that happened on the tier list was that I think it was a last map, Lasse, I don't even know how you pronounce it, but yeah, this guy is very good at mapping, okay. And then I saw a Mirash map, which, okay, yeah, this guy is good, he knows how to map. And then I saw a Calibe map, yeah, okay, this guy is good, he knows how to map. And then I started seeing like 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 15. I don't even know how many people that just replicated the same style. Which, okay, I mean, if you think the style is good, if you want to apply to more songs, that's awesome. I think that the maps themselves are good, that they have quality, they have technical quality, but at the same time, for me at least, it just didn't feel like something interesting. It didn't feel like a map that I was going to play over and over. And at the same time, I saw a lot of like 10 times SV mappers, and one of the funniest things for me on the tier list is that these mappers, they just went way above and beyond like technical stuff on the editor. It looked very high effort, it looked very nice, but it was just overdone. It didn't feel fun to play. And then at the same time, these same mappers, they reached a calm part in the song, like whatever, if it was a bridge or like just an easier part overall, their maps were just felt so nice to play, which was very ironic because the whole idea behind their maps is about having like those flashy sliders all over the screen and exploring the playfield in different ways. But the parts that interest me the most about the maps were the easy parts because they just showed how the technical prowess of these mappers worked for easy stuff more than harder stuff. And well, to finish this analysis, there's also like a third category of mappers, which was mappers like Delis, mappers like Johannes, and a few others, Phyto as well. These were the ones that surprised me the most because their maps were like what 5-star simple maps, but at the same time they just worked so well with the song. They didn't try to do anything fancy, but at the same time they try to replicate a feeling of the song, which is also what I described with Squirrel and other mappers. They didn't try to overdo anything, and that's where I felt like the maps felt so fun to play because they just focused on making it work. It didn't focus on showing prowess or like showcasing anything or just they didn't try to be good. They just tried to pretty much be fun, which is also like something that many people miss in current day also, I would say. I personally can find enjoyment in a lot of different maps, but sometimes I feel like simplicity works much better, and that effort put into a map. I mean, this second part of the question is very important because when we go back to that point in the interview where I said like the maps I put the most effort into were my easy maps, and the hard maps were getting recognized, and I got frustrated over that. With time, I just realized that no one else is going to see like how much effort you put into the map. If the map doesn't work, it just doesn't work. So you can't really force other people to like something just based on the effort that you put into it. This is something I had like a lot with maps like my Enya maps or Him to the Unobtainable, which were maps that I put so much effort into making them cool experiences, but people didn't enjoy them. It wasn't up to their taste. And it doesn't matter if you spend like uh, I don't know 100 hours on the editor trying to improve these maps, and then you just make like I don't know Big Money to Renard Cobario remix in like 30 minutes and make it 9-star, and some player will enjoy it and play it on stream, and everyone's going to like it. Like effort is like such a misleading way to see quality in a map. And I feel like what matters the most is if the map works in the end, in the context that it is inserted into. So yeah, that's it.
Right. I think what it sounds like, and especially after being so involved with mapping for so long, it's almost like you can sort of tell how much like genuineness came from the mapper to creating that map. Like you can tell when a map is sort of created with someone's own style versus like being copied, kind of. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's what I see a lot. Like, for example, without trying to extend myself, but um, it's very hard to say like, oh, this map has soul. This map just works. This map doesn't work because it's very subjective. But at the same time, I feel like when you just go through so many maps, and I feel like a lot of people like Momo and pretty much everyone who just played a huge variety of maps, they can kind of pinpoint this kind of stuff.
right, yeah, and I think definitely, at least in my experience, like like my appreciation for maps kind of comes from seeing like some sort of genuine heart from the mapper, and like I guess passion for making that map can really make a big difference. Even if you think that the player wouldn't really notice, then I think it will leave you more satisfied also with anyone who does play your map. So
If it works, it just works. It's kind of like that.
right, right. But yes, with that, I guess, do you have any final closing thoughts for motivation? Anyone who
Yeah.
either wants to get into mapping or has just been frustrated with sticking with the game, things like that?
Yeah, my final thoughts, like first, I'm so sorry for all of this. This is
No,
like 3 hours by now.
no. Just you got to stop being sorry. I think the people who made it this far definitely appreciate all of the thoughts that you had to share with us.
Yeah,
So
it's okay, okay. But yeah, on a more serious note, I think that it's what I said before about finding your own enjoyment of the game, and don't like I would say that my advice would be to just not stick to what other people feel like it is best for you. You have to explore things yourself. You have to like enjoy things by yourself. Like, I mean, the easiest example I can use is just like how much PP mapping is influent. Okay, everyone has talked about this all the time. But when you analyze how much like this is something that uh, okay, so this I hope this doesn't get too long, but when a very big streamer, Brazilian streamer, started streaming also, his name is like Calango. Many Brazilians will know about that. But at some point, like I think the beginning of last year, he started playing also, and he at some point he hosted Mouse Easy, and they kind of started talking about Osu, and he gave some tips and stuff. And like there was this relationship between Kalango and the Osu community in general. But this Osu community in general was also composed of like mostly casual players. And what happened on his streams was something that I found like at the same time interesting and very sad because Kalango started playing also like he would just play some insane diffs or whatever. But his streams eventually devolved into him playing like the same farm maps that everyone else played for like 2 or 3 hours. And he would like, okay, I passed Black Clover, guys. Let's go try and Lonely Go now. And it would just like go for this kind of map. And I mean, you can enjoy the game however you want, but you could feel that after some point that he was just like doing the same thing over and over and over again because everyone else did it. Because everyone, like, he asked, okay, guys, like, he's a big streamer. He has like 3,000 people in his chat. How do I get better at Osu? How do I rank up? Like, I'm new at the game. I don't know what is going on. Everyone's gonna talk about PP maps. Everyone is gonna talk, you have to farm PP.
oh
And then
no,
he gets into this mindset. And like, it's kind of interesting because you see him getting into PP maps and stuff like that. But then he also has some streams where he plays multi with other people, and people play puts like tech maps and whatever else. And this guy who just literally has never interacted like with the Osu community itself, and just like interacts with the community through his own chat, he literally got induced to only being good at farm maps.
oh no.
And like he plays multi, and then there's like some 5-star tech map, and he just gets a C rank. He stops playing midway through because he just doesn't know how to play it. And that like it just showed like he even said at some points like that it hindered his enjoyment for the game because he was just so focused on doing something like some specific part of the game that everything else just felt boring, everything else just felt bad. And it's what you see on the community at large. Like, I'm not going to sound like the superior person who enjoys the best maps, but when you see like whenever a slider gimmick map gets ranked and everyone's like, how is this thing ranked, why is this ranked, this should be loved instead, this is so bad to play, this is so uncomfortable. And then you see that it is kind of a mindset that people are stuck on. That, I mean, I'm not even getting into PP mapping itself, but just in general, if you get stuck into this map set of not being able to enjoy other things, of course it's going to hinder your motivation. Because at some point you're just going to get tired of playing PP maps, and you are also not going to enjoy playing other kinds of maps. So that's when you just get like, oh, I've hit a wall on Osu, I'm not going to improve. Yeah, and then there's like this whole cycle of getting worse and feeling worse about things. So yeah, my biggest advice is just to keep an open mind and to try to find your own enjoyment on the game and don't rely on others to show you how to enjoy the game.
Oh, yes, that is a big one for sure. Yes, much appreciated to you, Mismagius, for joining me today and for sharing all of your thoughts and history with the game. I think hopefully everyone learned something from it and sort of inspired by such a very, very long history of someone who has played this game for as long as you have. But yes, also thank you to everyone who listened either live or through the recording. And if you want to get more involved with these interviews, definitely the best thing to do is join the OC University Discord server. That is where pretty much everything happens. And you can also share the interviews with others if you want to support us. That is, I think, the best thing you can do in that regard, because I think just spreading the word really, really helps a lot more than you might think. But yes, with that, thank you everyone for listening, and thank you
Yeah,
again.
thank you. Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
for inviting me. It was very nice.
yes, much appreciated again for you joining. And to everyone listening, we will see you guys next time.